Living together through jazz. The music that united America. Intro music. Smooth jazz melody fades in, setting a warm, soulful tone. Host introductions. Welcome to Living Together, the podcast where we dive deep into the stories and sounds that shaped our world. I'm Phil, your host from Los Angeles by way of Chicago and Louisiana, where jazz runs as deep as the Mississippi. Growing up Black and Creole, I know firsthand how jazz is more than just music. It's a movement, a history, and a story of resilience. And I'm Renee, your host from New York City. Jazz is everywhere here, from the streets of Harlem to the iconic clubs downtown. But jazz is more than a sound for us too. It's a bridge that brought people together across racial and cultural divides. Today, we're exploring how jazz played a central role in American integration, and how John Robert Lindsay Jr. brought that spirit to Living Together magazine. Segment 1. Jazz and racial integration. Renee, jazz wasn't just a soundtrack for the nightclubs. It was a movement that shook up America in ways people didn't expect. Jazz created a space where, for once, talent was the only thing that mattered. It didn't matter if you were black or white. If you could play, you earned respect. Renee. Absolutely. Jazz was born out of African American communities, and for many black artists, it was a way to finally be recognized for their talent. People like Louis Armstrong, Duke Ellington, and Billie Holiday showed the world what they could do, breaking down the stereotypes people held. Jazz helped change the cultural view of African Americans, shifting the narrative from prejudice to admiration. My dad, John Robert Lindsay Jr., always said that jazz was the ultimate equalizer. Growing up in Louisiana, where jazz was in the air, he saw how music could bridge divides. He took that lesson to heart when he founded Living Together. Just like jazz, the magazine was about creating a space where different cultures, perspectives, and experiences could coexist and be celebrated. Segment 2. Jazz as a force for social mobility. Renee. Jazz also did something powerful for African Americans. It wasn't just an art form, it was a way to climb the social ladder. For the first time, black musicians had the chance to achieve wealth, fame, and independence. People like Miles Davis and Ella Fitzgerald became icons, earning the kind of respect and recognition that was rare for black artists in that era. Yeah, it was revolutionary. And that social mobility was something my dad admired deeply. Coming from humble roots in Louisiana and Mississippi, he knew what it meant to fight for your place. Jazz gave black Americans a platform, a way to break free from the limitations society placed on them. Living Together took that idea and ran with it, highlighting stories of people who were breaking barriers, whether in business, art, or activism. Renee. And that's what makes jazz so special. It predicted the civil rights movement. It challenged segregation by valuing skill and heart over race. Integrated jazz clubs like the Village Vanguard in New York and the Newport Jazz Festival became spaces where black and white audiences and musicians came together, united by their love of the music. Jazz was saying, "We're better together." Segment 3. Jazz as cultural exchange. Phil. Jazz wasn't just a black experience, though. It was also a way for white musicians and fans to discover black culture, to realize our shared humanity. For many white musicians, playing jazz was a doorway into understanding black life and black creativity. Renee. Right, jazz was a way for people to connect across boundaries, to experience the richness of African American culture in a way that nothing else could offer. It brought people together not just as musicians, but as equals. And that connection? It's something we're still feeling the impact of today. And that's where Living Together fits in. My dad understood that sharing culture was the first step to understanding each other. That's why he made sure the magazine was inclusive, showcasing everything from African art to Asian fashion to Latin cuisine. Just like jazz brought people together through shared rhythms, Living Together was a mirror, reflecting our shared humanity. Segment 4. Jazz as a messenger for social justice. Let's talk about the power of jazz to speak truth to power. Artists like Billie Holiday, Charles Mingus, and John Coltrane weren't just playing music, they were sending messages. Take Billie Holiday's "Strange Fruit," for example. That song spoke directly to the horrors of lynching, confronting America with the brutal realities of racism. Phil. Absolutely. And Mingus' music, with its defiance and boldness, are Coltrane's spiritual expressions. They were challenging the status quo, using music to speak out against injustice. Jazz has always been more than entertainment, it's been a voice for change, a call for respect and equality. And that's another lesson your dad took from jazz. Living Together wasn't just a magazine, it was a platform for social justice. By highlighting stories from underrepresented communities, the magazine was saying, these voices matter. These lives matter. It was a place where readers could see themselves and feel empowered. Personal anecdote: John Lindsay's musical roots. My dad, John Robert Lindsay Jr., wasn't just a fan of jazz, he was a musician himself. Growing up in Louisiana and Mississippi, jazz was in his bones. He played in local bands, soaking up the rhythms and stories of the South. For him, jazz was personal. It wasn't just music, it was a lifeline, a reminder of the strength and resilience of his roots. And that love for jazz translated into his vision for Living Together. The magazine became a way for him to keep the spirit of jazz alive, by fostering connection, breaking down barriers, and celebrating our differences. Just like a jazz ensemble, Living Together was a blend of voices, each one unique but harmonious together. Segment 5. Legacy of jazz in Living Together and beyond. So here we are, carrying that legacy forward. Jazz may have started as an American phenomenon, but its influence is global. It's inspired movements, shaped cultures, and united people across boundaries. And in many ways, Living Together is just the same, using stories and voices from around the world to bring us all a little closer. That's right. Jazz and Living Together remind us that we're stronger together. No matter where we come from, we all have something to share, something to learn from each other. So, whether you're in Louisiana or New York, Nigeria or the Philippines, let's keep living together, celebrating our shared humanity. Outro. Thanks for joining us on this journey through jazz and Living Together. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and keep the conversation going. And remember, as jazz taught us and my dad believed, we're better when we're together. Until next time, keep the spirit of jazz alive, celebrate your heritage, respect each other's stories, and, as we say, keep living together. Outro music. Jazz melody fades out, leaving a lasting, soulful note.